Guys, can you hear me? Am I audible to you? Are we good to start? Because I can't see myself till now. Okay. Okay, right. Okay, I can see myself now. Okay. Hello everyone. Tuve is here. Mayuri is here. Ranveer is also here. Okay. Manish is here. Krishna is here. So today is our special day because I love Fischer and we are going to look at his game. And before more people join us, we'll start with Fischer's tactics also. I have decided to solve some of his tactics. So this is the position from Fischer's game. There is a net issue. Yeah, I'm just changing my network. Just give me 1 minute. It will not happen. I'm just changing it to other network. Till that moment, you can try to solve. Okay, Kurukshetra Sarvanan is here. Hello. Just give me a 1 minute. I'm trying to fix the now I am back. So can you see me properly now? Okay, let's start then. This is white to play. What is your solution for this? We'll just solve tactics for some time and after that, okay. Kurukshetra is saying, am I saying correctly? Kurukshetra? Okay. I can see some new members are here. Okay, knight f6 has been suggested by some people. Okay, guys, tell me, come on, fast. Okay, knight into d4 is set by Nupur. Ranveer is saying knight to the f6. Okay, guys, if you are going for the knight f6 check, then maybe I can just capture the knight. Then what is your solution? But if you play queen to the g3, then I will again move my king. Is there any checkmate? I don't think so there is any checkmate. Because and if you play e into f6, then queen d6, okay, it's a little bit problematic, you can see, but I can play first knight into f3, maybe check. Or actually knight e2 is check is coming, sorry. This is something which I missed. Knight e2 check in and your queen will be gone. Yeah, so it's not that good move playing knight f6 first. You need to play something else. Knight f6 is the idea you need to play, but first I think Nupur has already told me once about this position. It's like you can first you play capture knight into d4. Now there is no option for black rather than just capturing it, and after knight to the f6 check, the first of all black's castling is getting ruined, and we are getting one exchange up also. Will be exchange up in this position, so this is a good position for white. He is almost winning in this position. So should I go to the next one? Is it clear to everyone? Okay, I'll go to the next one. This is white to play. Okay. Oh shit, I made mistake. Again play. It is white to play, guys. Not bishop into f8. It is white to play. The bishop is on a3. Shivendra is saying d6. Okay. What if I just capture it? Come on, these exercises are not that difficult. You can solve it quite fast. After two more exercises, we will start with Fischer's games. This game was played in 1964 by Fischer, for your information. Okay, Nupur, your first move is correct, but the second move is wrong, because if you play queen to the c2 in that position, the bishop will move back to b6 or d6. Okay, Arvind is correct. b4 and the bishop will be, yes, Tuve is also correct about it. Kurukshetra, first move is correct. Guys, try to tell me the correct complete answer, okay, not just the first move. So after b4, this bishop cannot really move because our rook is there on this file and it is a pin. Okay, let's go to the next one now. So what would you play? This is black to play, and in this position, actually it is quite easy. It is not like completely tactical solution is there. This is quite easy. Okay, I will just tell you. It is black to play. Okay, I'll wait for your answer. Okay, flip. Okay, I can flip the board for you. Okay, is it okay now? Yeah, Ranveer, you are right. Bishop into e2 is actually a good move in this position. Absolutely right. Because after that, okay, there are several ways to win this position. It's not like the only move, but bishop into e2 is the most easiest way, because after bishop into e2, even if knight into e7 check comes, the king h8 will be there, and this knight on e7 cannot really go back anywhere. If you can see, this queen is controlling everything, and we are going to capture the rook on f1. Okay, so that's why we will be piece up in this position, and next move we are going to bring the rook on e8, and there will be pressure on. So bishop e2 was easy, but many people don't see it. Okay, the last position before we start Fischer's games. This was played between Fischer and Gligoric. Fischer was white, and it was played in Zagreb 1970. In that game this position came. Let's see whether you can play like Fischer. Okay, I will again need to flip the board. This is white to play. Hello. It's white to play, okay, not black to play. White to play in this position. Yes, white to play. Fischer is white in this position. Queen e1 is suggested by someone, but okay, if you play queen e1, your rook on h6 is hanging. Pay attention to this thing. This rook is hanging. Okay, Mayur has come up with the solution. Rook into f6, king into f6, and bishop g5 wins the. And if queen in knight h5, absolutely right. Dandapani, you are also right. Indrajit, oh, my friend is also here. Indra is here. Try to write down the complete variation, guys, not just the first move. Okay, rook f6 is the correct move because queen into f6 somebody plays, then knight to the h5, it will be a fork and it will be a winning position for white. And if king into f6, then again bishop g5, and we can see that the queen on d8 will be hanging. So do you want to solve one more puzzle or should you start with the game today? Yes, game. Okay, let's start with the game today. And the first game which I was thinking to show you was let me tell you something about Fischer first. Fischer used to play chess since very starting, and he was too much obsessed for the chess. He always used to study and everything. But what happened, like when he became around 10 or 11 years, he came to know about there are many books which are not available in America. He used to stay in America, and at that time the only good books were available were in Russia. So he learned Russian. Then he started studying books in Russian languages, and the people who were there in America did not know about these things that much because the books were very scarce at that time, like it was not available for everyone. But Fischer used to read each and every magazine, each and every book. And the game which I am going to show you, it has some funny story. Let's see it. So the game was played between Fischer and Samuel Rishevsky. Rishevsky was also famous at that time, and for the people who don't know Rishevsky was the one of the players who played against I think 10 world champions in his very early career because he played for a long time. Okay, fine. So can you see the starting position? Is it there? Yeah. So as I told you, Fischer used to study chess a lot, and this is one of his games where he showed that the knowledge of opening is very very important, and his opponent did not have that much knowledge. Just okay, fine. So Fischer was white. He was playing against Samuel Rishevsky, as I told you, and game started with e4 move. Can you see the board properly? I played the e4 move. Yeah, I can see now. So and then c5 was played. Then knight to the f3 was played. Knight c6, d4, c into d4, knight into d4. And just to tell you, Samuel Rishevsky was a good theoretician at that time, but he had little bit different opinion about studying the openings. He used to study openings in the old style, but Fischer was like a modern player. He used to study modern games. He used to analyze everything, and the game which they are going to play happened already in Russia at that time, and the position reached till this point. And in this position, knight a5 was played by Rishevsky. Okay, So knight a5 was played by Rishuaski because he already played in one game, and Fischer analyzed everything related to this opening move, that is knight a5, because in Russian magazine it was given that this position is completely better for white, and Rishuaski did not know because there was a very hidden sacrifice which was waiting for black. Can you spot the sacrifice and tell me? Well, Bharat Kalyan is saying e5, knight e8 and bishop into f7. Well, guys, that is actually correct, because maybe Bharat Kalyan is a very strong player. He is 2100 plus, so he knows these games. Okay, playing bishop into f7 is not good. Okay, the main thing about this knight a5 is like knight on the rim is dim, it is said. But in the early opening, there is also one principle is that you should not play your pieces again and again unless and until it is necessary. Okay, so and also one of the another principle related to opening is like you should control the center. So both of these things are not done by black. He is not controlling the center, plus he is playing the same piece again. So that is the second mistake it is happening. So there should be some flaw in his play, and Fischer understood this thing. He played e5. Now he is controlling the center, dislodging this knight from the f6 square. The knight went to the e8 square, and another thing is that this queen on d8 is now hanging. So if something comes on e6 square, the queen will not be having any squares. So that's why, because of this reason, Fischer played bishop into f7. Now rook into f7 is not a good move because knight e6 is coming, and as I told you, the knight cannot be captured because queen will be hanging. It is not having c7 square. b6 square is also controlled by this bishop on e3. So which move will you play? Obviously king into f7 is the only move. Okay, now tell me what will really happen. What would you play? Okay, Bharat Kalyan, if you know the game, please give some chance to other people also to think. Okay, Shekhar has come up with knight to the e6 move. But guys, can you tell me why exactly? Well, knight e6 actually is possible. As I was telling you, there is a lot of pressure on this file. The queen on d8 is hanging. That's why if knight e6 is played, and if knight e6 played, he cannot really capture with the pawn. That is the main problem with black's position. And if he wants to save the queen, then he must capture the knight with the king. And by sacrificing two pieces just in 10-11 moves, Fischer dragged his opponent's king in the center of the board, right? Now king is in the center of the board. This is something unbelievable, and at that time everybody was surprised, like what is really happening. It is really good. Okay, his opponent finally decided not to play like king into e6, because if he plays king to the e6, can you tell me what happened? What will happen if he plays king into e6? Is it a checkmate? Well, right, queen to the d5 check, king f5. Can you spot the check and mate? Tell me the check and mate now. Okay, after king f5, what is there? Not just the one move. Okay, g4 is suggested by Kurukshetra. Okay, after g4, king into g4, then write down the complete variation. I need to see your accuracy. Not just the one move Dandapani. Krishna, not just the one move. King into g4 after what? Whichever move you are suggesting me, write down at least one or two moves. It's not just that move. g4, king into g4 and rook g1 check. Well, correct. It is possible. And if he goes to the h5 square, Okay, Bharat Kalyan, now you can tell me, okay, because this is pure calculation. If you are there, then you can tell me the moves. Okay, e6 is suggested by Kurukshetra. Well, e6 is also possible, but if you play e6, let's suppose, what can I play? I need to play bishop e5 in that case, I think. Okay, many people are saying e6. Let's see what happens after e6. If you play e6, then bishop e5 will be played, and I will be having a little bit shelter, I think, because now I am going back with king f6. So that's not that good. g4 is the best move in this position. It seems like that, because you are dragging your opponent's king further away towards your own camp. Okay, Mayur has written g4, king into g4, rook to the g1, and if king f5, then obviously it is one move checkmate with rook to the g5. Absolutely right. And what about king to the h5? Okay, king h5 at that time you are saying. Well, e5, if you play in this position, then okay, I can still play rook to the f5. Yes, Ranveer, correct. g4 is the right move. And again, it is a little bit difficult to checkmate, but you need to find out how will you checkmate. This king is not having any squares. Look at this. All the squares are protected by your... Yeah, Krishna, you are right. Queen to the d1 check, and again this king is in trouble. If king h4 is played, then queen g4 is a checkmate. And if it's not played, rook f3 is played, then after queen into f3, again this queen g4 will be a check and mate. So you can say that if his opponent captures on e6, then he is getting checkmated, like with the king. So finally he decided to give up his queen, and he played d into e6 in the game. This is what happened in the game. And obviously Fischer won almost the game in just 11 moves after just 2 sacrifices. And after queen d8, this is just a winning position. Okay, for the sake of clarity, we will see the game a little bit further also. Okay, I have not written the name of the game. This was Fischer versus Spassky. It was played in 1959. Okay, fine. Again, the name is quite big. I need to shift it. Missed inspiration. Okay, fine. So here black played knight to the c6, attacking the queen, and he decided to come back with queen to the d2, and then bishop into e5 was played. Now this is a technical game. The black's king is still very weak. It's not that very well protected, but we have two pieces. Miss Black has only two pieces. Those two pieces are also minor pieces. I'll just go through the game, what happened, because this was the main thing. What I wanted to show is, like, Fischer used to study chess a lot, and because of his study of Russian books, he knew this thing already, because there is this same analysis was already published in Russian magazine, and he was well aware of this thing. So guys, I will tell you, if you want to be smart like Fischer, always study latest games, what is happening in the latest tournaments. There are many tournaments happening online also these days. Try to follow these good players. Okay, so queen e2 was played, bishop into f4, queen into c4, and king g7, knight e4, then bishop to the c7 was played, knight c5 was played, c3, and you can see that Fischer is bringing his pieces slowly and gradually towards the center of the board. And now, okay, the d7 knight is quite strong, and here he played again knight c5. They played for some time. Now it is more clear that these pieces are not playing in the game. The c8 bishop, the rook 8, and these pieces are not playing that much. So He tried to bring the pieces in the game with bishop into the f5, but now Fischer starts pushing his pawn on the queen side. He plays b4, rook f8, then b5. Now he has the pawn majority on this side. This knight is also dislodged from that square, and he plays rook d5, attacking the pawn on e5. He supports the pawn and rook c7. Now his idea is to play rook to the c7 on the 7th rank. Okay, so he played a6, the pawn b5. Now b6 pawn comes, and it is almost very difficult position. Now he brings the final piece in the game with rook to the e1. Bishop moves. Now can you tell me the final finishing touch? How will you play? One last question related to this game, then we will move to the next game. Which move will you play so that you can... Well, Shivendra is saying rook into c6. Absolutely right, you should play. But why do you want to play rook into c6? Well, Suyog is also here. Hello Suyog. Many of my friends are coming in today's live session. I am really happy. Maybe because of Bobby Fischer. Ranveer is also saying rook into c6. Okay, after rook into c6, the thing is that after b into c6, the pawn is going to queen, rook a b8, and then finally queen into a6, and we can see that the pawn on b7 is too strong, and these rooks and are not doing that great job in this position. Okay, he tried to attack the pawn on b7, but Fischer just defended it. Rook to the f7. Again he is trying to attack the pawn. Okay, he gave up the pawn, but the thing is that even if the pawn is gone, he has this good move, queen to the a8, and now finally his opponent resigned in this hopeless position. Okay, so the moral of the story of this game is like, don't play this kind of moves. Follow opening principles. Even if you are a strong player, you should not forget that. You should not forget about the opening. Don't play the same piece again and again unless and until it is necessary. You should control the center with your pawns and pieces. Okay, the next game which we are going to see was played between Fischer and Larsen, and this game is famous for Fischer's play against Sicilian Dragon opening. Okay, Larsen, this game was played in 1958. So should we start with this game between Fischer and... Okay, Hambade sir, hello. Okay, white player, Miss Fischer was white, Larsen was black, and as I told you, Fischer just won this game because okay, it is okay, let's start it then, and then I will discuss it. e4, then he played c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c into d4, knight into d4, knight f6, knight c3, and g6. As we saw yesterday also, if white plays f4, which move will you play? If you remember, any of you who were present yesterday, can you tell me, after f4 black is not able to play bishop to the g7 in this position, right? The natural looking bishop g7 is a mistake, because after e5 it will be good position for white. Yeah, absolutely right. But as I told you in that game also, that the usual plan is to play bishop e3, which Fischer went for, bishop to the e3, then bishop to the g7, and now f3. Now the indication is quite clear that both players are going to castle on the opposite side, and there might be a sharp play, and we will see how these sharp plays are played by two strong players. So black played castles, and queen to the d2 was played. The idea is to long castle in this position. So black played knight to the c6, developing his knight in the towards the center of the board. Now bishop to the c4 was played, and now here there are several options from black side. He can play knight to the e5, attacking the bishop on c4. And bishop will go back, and then there is a possibility of playing queen a5 or even a5, a4. These are all opening moves. Okay, But in this game, black player Bent Larsen, who was also a strong player at that time, at one point Bent Larsen was among the top 5 players in the world, and he played knight into d4. He wanted to simplify the position, and because he was afraid of Fischer's attacking play, but it doesn't really stop Fischer. We'll see what happens. After bishop into d4, black played bishop to the e6 again to exchange the bishop on c4. So what would you play in this position? My first question for you about this game. Black strategy is to exchange as many pieces as possible. What to do now? Okay, bishop b3 is suggested by Shivendra and Bharat. Okay, that's absolutely right. Fischer doesn't want to capture on e6. I'll tell you why. Because if you capture on e6, black wants his pawn to come on the e6 square so that he can control the d5 square from this knight. And another thing is that e5 will also be controlled by this, so center will be very strong from black's perspective. Okay, Ranveer is saying e5, but Ranveer, if you play e5, then maybe I can capture the c4 bishop. Then if you capture here, okay, possibility is there, don't worry. So yeah, bishop b3 is, he just simply saved his bishop to the b3 square. And the idea is like, if black captures the bishop with bishop into b3, then white has two options, either to capture with the c pawn or with the a pawn. But it's most likely that white should capture with the a pawn, okay, because he doesn't want to open up the c file in this position, because he might go into castle on the king side or queen side. It is not at the fixed, but if he wants to castle on the queen side, then it makes sense to not to open up the c file immediately right now. So black played queen a5. He did not go for bishop into b3, and then white finally castled in this position on the queen side. And then black played b5. Again in this position, you can see that black is trying to play b5. He wants to expand on the queen side, and then he is going to capture on the b3 square also. So he needs to control the queen's expansion on the on the a file. So to protect everything on the queen side, he played king to the b1. This is a very standard move, protecting the a2 pawn. And now here black finally played b5. This knight is going to be captured, so it's quite obvious that white must play the knight in the center of the board. And now for your another question, like after bishop into d5, by which piece will you capture the bishop on d5, with the pawn or the bishop? You have two options, bishop into d5 or e into d5. This is little bit tricky. Okay, bishop into d5 is said by, okay, both options are possible, but one of them was much better. E into d5 is said by maybe Ambade sir. Shivendra is saying bishop into d5. Okay, let's analyze what really happens. E into d5 is said by Ranveer. Krishna is saying bishop into d5. Okay, if you play e into d5, actually in Fischer's notes he said that this is actually was a better alternative from his side, because now he can quickly take control of the e file, and this was interesting for, by him, perhaps because bishop is the nice queen side protect. Yes, bishop is protecting everything on the queen side, and even if black tries to do something, let's suppose he might play queen to the b5 in this position. Now we will attack the pawn with rook to the e1, and if he plays something like a5 trying to block means trap the bishop with a4, then Fischer said like he analyzed that he will play queen to the e2, and this position should be better for white slightly because he has two bishops. Okay, but during the game Fischer decided to play in a different way. He played bishop into d5 in the game. Okay, CB is saying why to go. So e5 is good. No, bishop into d5. E into d5 was better option, but Fischer, yeah, during the game played bishop into d5. But after the game he analyzed. At that time he said like e into d5 was much better option, which he didn't play. And here black player played rook a c8. He wants to bring his rook on this file. And now in this position, actually when this position is on the board, black had the chance, the final chance to capture this bishop on d5, because you can see that this bishop is doing quite good job on the this a to 2 g8 diagonal. So black should have played knight into d5, getting rid of this strong bishop on d5. But he played rook a c8. So what would you play now? Fischer played a very nice move in this position. Which move will you play? Can you play like Fischer? Okay, Sanket is saying hi, welcome. Yes, absolutely. Bishop b3 is actually a good move. Retreat. Yes, Mayur, you are also right. We should save our strong pieces. Just play rook to the b3, because this bishop will be very useful in defense also and in attack also. That's why he played bishop to the b3. And now it is difficult position for black, because now black's attack which was happening earlier, it is not going to happen so easily, because bishop is still there, and white will start his own attacking play with h4, h5, h6, or maybe h into g6. We'll see what happens. Fischer's opponent played rook to the c7. He wants to double the rooks on the c file, but now Fischer starts his own attacking play on the king side with the move h4. Always remember, whenever you are going to attack your opponent, make sure that your opponent cannot really create too much of counter play on your own king. Okay, Ranveer, you are correct about the move. Krishna, you are also right. So black played queen to the b3. His idea is to play a5, a4. So what to do in this position? Should you play h5 or not? You should be sure that if you play h5, he can play knight into h5, okay, because he has the support of g pawn. So the question is, should white play h5 or not in this position? And you need to tell me what will you play if your opponent is going to play knight into h5. That is very important. So write down the variation. If h5, knight into h5, which move will you play? Okay, Ranveer is saying no. Okay, this is very interesting position. Okay, it's possible. It's your choice if you want to play it or not. But think about the variation which I am asking you. After h5, knight into h5, which move is a good move? g4. Shivendra is saying g4. Well, g4 is also knight into bishop into g7 is said by Krishna. Okay. Okay, Mukesh is saying rook into h5. Okay, that's also correct. Possible in that move, in that position. Okay, let's play it on the board and let's figure it out what really happens. Let's suppose you played h5, and if he plays knight into h5, now what you should play? Actually, knight into h5 is a mistake in this position. I'll tell you why. Because white has a nice move, he can play bishop into g7, getting rid of this important dragon bishop, so that there will not be any defensive resources. And after king into g7, white will play g4. Okay, there is also possibility that black might play knight into g7, but this will lead to a checkmate almost after queen to the h6, because we have opened up the file, that is h file is opened up by sacrificing the pawn on h file. Okay, yes, bishop into g7 is actually a correct move. And after king into g7, can you tell me a good move? g5, knight h6, rook h5. Well, queen h6 you cannot directly play. The bishop was on g7. He wanted to get rid. Well, g4. Tuvia, you are right. g4 is correct. Yes, Mayur, you are also right. g4 for queen h6. Absolutely right. So g4 and this knight will not be saved, because if this knight moves to the h6 square, then queen h6 will be played. If king g8, then g5 is a good move. And after g5, if let's suppose he plays knight to the h5, now tell me, how will you finish off your opponent? I will wait for your answer. With a good variation, okay? It's almost check and mate. Let's try it, whether you can finish off your opponent. You should checkmate. And all the things will be happening because this bishop is there on this diagonal. Okay, Bharat is saying rook into h5 and g6. Absolutely right. Rook h5, gh5 and rook h1 is said by Kurukshetra. Okay. Shivendra is saying maybe rook h5. You should not say maybe, you should think. What will you do? Then rook into h5. Okay, Mayur is saying. Ranveer, rook h5 and g6 maybe he is saying. Okay. Okay, I will just play the move. Rook h5 is actually the best move in this position, because you want to destroy black's king side in this position. And after g into h5, g6 is a good move, because black cannot really capture the pawn on g6, because this bishop is there on this diagonal. And if h into g6 is played, then queen into g6 check. If king to the h8, then queen h6 check, king to the g8, and now finally we can bring the rook on the g file with rook to the g1, and it's a check and mate, because there is only one move which black can play, rook g5, but after rook into g5 it's a mate. So did you understand this check and mate? I hope you understood. So obviously after h5, black cannot really capture on h5 with the knight. Okay, so Fischer's opponent Bent Larsen did not capture the pawn on h5, because that is a big trap. And obviously if you capture g into h5, you are opening up the g file. That is also very bad for you, because here also white can just open up the game with how will you open up the game? Okay, I will wait for you. If he plays g into h5, final question for this position, then we'll move to the next one. Come on, you need to open up the g file. What would you play? Yes, g4. Ranveer, you are absolutely right. You should play g4, because if h into g4 is played in this position, we will not do anything. We will just bring another rook, and these two rooks will be very powerful on these two lines, two files, and it is almost very difficult position for black, because now we are going to play rook into g4, and before that bishop into f6 and rook into g4 will be played. And we can see that queen is also coming to the h6 square, so it will be very difficult position for black. Okay, so capturing the pawn on h5 will lead to black's doom side. So he played rook f8, ignoring everything on that side. But now Fischer played h into g6, which he wanted to play, and you can see that this pawn cannot really capture on g6. He must play h into g6, and now we have finally opened up the h file. That is what Fischer wanted. And now he starts with his another pawn on g file. He starts with g4. His idea is to control everything, and he is also going to play g5 at some point if it's needed. But now he is just controlling everything, knight's activity with g4 move. So black plays a5. His idea is to play a4 and attack this bishop. So Fischer again continues with his attack. He plays g5, attacking the knight. So here if black plays a4 trying to attack the bishop, we don't need to do anything related to the bishop. We can just capture g into f6, And if he captures on a into b3, then we'll capture the f into g7 and it should be winning for white. So obviously in this position he did not play a4 and black played knight to the h5. Okay, now again take a pause and think, what would you do? Your opponent is putting his knight on the h file. He wants to block this file, but Fischer wanted to open up the file. So what to do in this position? You don't have g4 move. Is your attack over in this position, or Fischer had something in his mind after knight to the h5? Well, Krishna is saying bishop into g7. Okay, possible. Rook into h5 is said by, and then g6. Well, that is also good. Shivendra bishop into g7, possible. But I am asking, what would you do about your h file? The knight is sitting there on h5 square. Unless and until the knight will be removed from that file, you cannot really attack, because your queen is not going to come in the game. The queen should join. Think. Okay, Ranveer is saying rook into h5. That's absolutely a good move. But what about after that? If g into h5, think. Not just tell me like one move is not needed. I need 2 or 3 moves from here. Calculation is needed. Okay, Saksham, bishop into g7 is not that good. You need to take care of the knight first. Not just one move. Tell me complete variation. At least 2 or 3 moves you should write down, guys. Don't be so lazy. Okay. I got a complete variation from Bharat. He is saying rook into h5, g into h5, then g6, then e5, okay, gf7, king f8, bishop e3, d5. That's a very long, pretty long variation. It's very difficult to understand. Okay, guys, I'll go with the variation that rook h5 is actually the most important move in this position. If you don't open up the position, then you cannot really do anything. Okay, for the players who are afraid of giving up your rook for the knight, I'll just say that your opponent's king is always much more valuable than your any piece. Okay, so if you can checkmate your opponent, then all your queen sacrifice is also welcome. So that's why Fischer opened up the game with rook into h5, and after g into h5 he played g6, a very nice move, because this pawn on f7 is pinned now, and now he cannot really capture it, and our idea is to capture on g7, and this queen will also be coming on this diagonal. This rook is going to join the game on the g file, and black's king will be a lot of trouble. So black decided to block this bishop's diagonal, which was also very dangerous. So he played e5, and white means Fischer played g into f7. Then king doesn't have really good squares. He played king to the f8, and now here again, tell me a good move. Which move will you play? It is almost completely winning position for white. Fischer is going to win. He has sacrificed one exchange, but this position is actually very, very good for him. Which move will you play, guys? Will you play something sacrificial move, or will you play a silent move in this position? Okay, Shivendra is saying f4. Okay, just to bishop into e5. Okay, Krishna is also saying bishop into e5. What if I just capture with the bishop into e5? What is your idea? Or queen into e5? I'll capture queen into e5. If you play bishop into e5, I'll play queen into e5. What is your idea after that? So we think about black's possibilities, and now it will be black who will be winning, because black's king is supported. Like, it is completely well protected, and he is threatening checkmate on your king. Kurukshetra, well, you are saying f4, but what about your bishop on d4? I'll just capture your bishop on d4. Pay attention to your pieces. It's very, very important. In this position, you don't need to do anything. This pawn on e5 is there, right? I'll tell you what. This pawn on e5 is there. That's why this bishop is not getting opened up. So what we need to do in this position, we want to exchange this bishop on g7. And Fischer understood that thing. So he played a very simple move, bishop to the e3, with the idea of playing bishop to the h6. And he is going to exchange this bishop. And black will be completely helpless because this queen on b5, the rooks on c5 are completely out of the game. They are on the queen side and the main action is happening on the king side. Okay. So black tried to bring some of his pieces in the game by playing d5. He wants to bring the queen also here somewhere like this, but okay, nothing is going to help him. He played e into d5 because bishop into d5 is not that good in this position because rook into c2 will be played. Never give your opponent any chance. And after e into d5, this is very simple position. He played rook into f7. Okay, the pawn is gone, but we don't really need our pawn on f7. What we need is like open diagonals for our bishops. So Fischer played d6, opening up the diagonal for this bishop. And now this rook is being attacked. And this pawn is also going to queen very soon now. So his opponent played rook to the f6. Now which move will you play? There are several ways to win this position. It's not like the only way to win the position. I'll just tell you. Fischer won the game with bishop to the g5, attacking this rook on f6. And to protect something, his opponent played queen to the b7, trying to bring back the queen on this rank. But it is not going to help him. He played bishop into f6, bishop into f6. And now the pawn on d6 is going to queen. So he played d7. And after rook to the d6, d7, d8. How will you finish off the game? Come on, tell me it's a check and mate now. White to play and checkmate in I don't know how many moves. I'll not tell you exactly. Okay, Fischer played queen to the d6. I'll just tell you. This is also going to lead to the checkmate. But there was a 3 moves checkmate. Can you find it out? Queen h6 is said by Shivendra and Krishna. Queen d6, rook, king f7. King f7 is not possible. The bishop on b3 is there. Can you find out 3 moves checkmate, guys? White to play and 3 checkmate in 3 moves. See, I will tell you one thing. This bishop is there on this diagonal. It is controlling everything. This pawn on d7 is controlling the e8 square. So okay, Ranveer is saying queen h6 first move. Well, that move is there. And this rook is also there on this file. Oh, sorry. Queen h6, another king e7, queen h7, king f8, and queen f7. Yes, you are right. Yes, correct. Guys, it is correct that queen h6 will lead to a checkmate. After queen into king to the e7, maybe he will play queen to the h7. If king f8, then queen f7 is a mate. And even if he plays bishop to the g7, after queen into g7, it's a check and mate. But okay, Fischer finished off the game with queen to the d6. That is also going to lead to the checkmate because after king to the g7, rook g7, and king will be checkmated because queen into f6 is also coming. So his opponent just resigned in this position. Yes, Karakshatra, you are also right. Tuvia, you are also right. It was a possibility. So this is how Fischer first of all sacrificed one pawn, then he sacrificed his rook, opened up his opponent's position, and then he finished off his opponent with a very simple play. You need not need to play in a very aggressive way all the time. You can play sometimes simple moves also when you get the winning position. Don't always go for the sacrifices. Sacrifice only when it is necessary, not all the time. Okay. So did you like this game? This was the main turning point in the game. That rook into h5 was very, very important, if you see. Okay. Yes, sir. Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra Sarvanan, are you the son of V Sarvanan? I just want to ask you, I don't know you, that's why I'm asking. Yeah, okay, everybody has like this game. No sir, okay. Okay, the next game which we are going to see is something Fischer's positional play, I will say. His opponent creates one weakness in his camp, and then Fischer launches a creative idea in the position, and then okay, if I tell you everything, then it will be very easy for you to guess the moves. So we will see the game, and then but I will tell you, this is not completely a tactical game, this is a little bit positional game, and try to guess the moves from Fischer, but it is not too much big game. Okay, after this game we will see one of Fischer's brilliances. If you have not seen that game, it will be better, you will enjoy that game. So should we see one of Fischer's positional play? Means this game is all about when you get a strong knight in the center of the board, what really happens. Okay. Okay, let's start it then. The game, let me write down the game. Fischer was white in this game, and his opponent was Bolbochan. It was played in 1962. So it was 1962. Okay, we are going a little bit 1 year ahead after, because I want to tell you one story. In the year 1962, Fischer actually won his first national championship, that is first national championship. He became the national champion in 1962. Okay, so let's start with the game. Fischer was white in this game. His opponent was Bolbochan Giulio, and Fischer played e4. Fischer used to say this thing that e4 is always best by test. He never played d4 until he became a very strong player in the world, and his world championship match only directly he played the d4 systems mainly. Okay, that was a big surprise. We will see that game. I am going to keep his world championship game, which changed everything till the last moment. Okay, at the end we will see Fischer's win in the world championship match. So wait till that time. So e4 was played. His opponent played c5, again one Sicilian opening. So knight f3, then d6, then d4, c into d4, knight into d4, knight f6, knight to the c3, and a6. This Sicilian Nassdorf opening, this is the setup of Sicilian Nassdorf. Okay, and Fischer loved to play Sicilian Nassdorf from both the sides. From black side also he played many amazing games in Sicilian Nassdorf. From white side also he played in a nice way, and he demolished Sicilian Nassdorf in his games. So today is one of those games when he demolishes Sicilian Nassdorf in a very great style. He plays h3 move. Nowadays this move is also very famous. He plays h3. The idea of h3 is not to be completely defensive. The idea is to play g4 and trying to be more aggressive on the king side, lights from the start. But okay, it is not exactly aggressive, it is little bit positional also. So black played knight to the c6, attacking the knight on d4. So Fischer continued with his plan. He played g4 in this position, and black played knight into d4, queen into d4. He has given up the knight in the center of the board. They have exchanged it, and now black player makes a very not very, but a little bit inaccurate move. He plays e5. Because of this move e5, this looks very natural, like attacking the queen on d4 and trying to get control, and your piece will also come on the e6 square, and your pieces will also move around with bishop e7 all. But actually playing e5 is little bit inaccurate in this position. Black should have played e6 to control everything related to the d5 square. But when you play e5, you are creating a potential weakness on the d5 square, And now Fischer shows like how to take care of that d5 square, how to take control of that square. Okay, we will go step by step. The queen is attacked, so he plays queen to the d3 in this position, and black plays bishop to the e7. And now who is controlling the d5 square? Obviously the knight on f6 is controlling the d5 square. So Fischer plays his first move. He dislodges the knight on f6 by playing g5 move. Okay, so knight must move. He plays knight to the d7, and now he develops his bishop to the e3. And here black plays knight to the c5. This is again a little bit tricky. He plays the knight to the c5. Now my question for you is like, what would you play? Okay, just for the clarity, if you have any doubts, like some people might see it in this position, like why didn't black play bishop into g5 in this position? Well, if he plays bishop into g5, queen into g5, and after queen into d6, this position is little bit difficult for black towards the endgame. But okay, black can really play this position if he wants to go for the endgame. But his opponent did not wanted to go for the endgame. That's why he did not go for it. He played knight to the c5, trying to be more trying to make the game more complicated. So he played knight to the c5. Now what would you play? Queen d2, yes, absolutely. You should play queen to the d2. You don't need to capture the knight on c5, because if you capture the knight on c5, then you are helping your opponent, because after d into c5, the position will be little bit simplified, and Fischer did not wanted to simplify the position, and the d5 weakness will also be okay. d5 square will also be not that much weak in this position, because the d5 will be opened up, the bishop's diagonal will also be opened up. So he did not go for it. He played queen to the d2. Now black played bishop to the e6, trying to control the d5 square more. So white played long castle in this position, black played castles, and now he wants to go to the d5 square. So first of all, he needs to protect the pawn on e4. He plays f3 to protect the pawn on e4. Now black plays rook to the c8, and as we have seen earlier also, whenever the rook comes on the c file, usually in Sicilian openings, the king moves to the b1 square, so that it should not be there on this difficult diagonal. So fine. So he plays knight to the d7 from black side, and now white plays h4. He wants to move his pawns on the king side so that he can create some counterplay there. And black also tries to do the same thing. He tries to counter on the queen side. He plays b5 in this position. And now which move will you play? This is very important move from white side. Let's see whether you can find it out. Queen d2 is said by Ranveer. Are you getting any lag? Because queen d2 is already there on the board. Okay, bishop h3 is suggested by Bharat. Okay, yes, in this position, as I was telling since starting, the bishop on e6 very important. It is controlling the d5 square, so it is very important for white to dislodge that. Yes, Shivendra, you are also right. Bishop h3 is a good move, trying to exchange this bishop. Once this bishop is exchanged, we can occupy the d5 square. So that's why bishop h3 is played in this position. And after bishop into h3, rook into h3, this d5 square is a little bit in trouble. So black plays knight to the b6, again trying to control the d5 square. He is also trying to jump on the c4 square. The knight will be very strong. So Fischer understands these positional concepts. He plays bishop into b6, after queen into b6. Yes, correct. It will come in the Mayur. You are absolutely right about this thing. And finally, the knight comes into the center of the board. And whenever the knight comes on the center of the board, like, it is called as an outpost. What is an outpost? When the knight is supported by the pawn, there is no other pawn which can dislodge the knight then we can say that the knight has an outpost. And another thing is that when the knight goes into opponent's camp, like we can say that our camp means 4 files, 4 ranks are ours, like this, and when we cross the 4th rank, it is in opponent's camp. Now we are controlling many good squares in your opponent's camp, and this is very annoying for your opponent. Okay, the knight will be very strong. Always try to put your knight in the position where it is doing great job. So d5 is a good place for the knight. So queen goes to the d8 square, and now Fischer tries to open up the position slowly and gradually, because the knight is firmly placed on d5. He needs to bring his pieces more in the game. He starts with f4, then after e into f4, queen into f4 is played. You can see that the d6 pawn is there, that's why this bishop on e7 is bad, and also the g5 pawn is there, so bishop cannot really go anywhere. So this is the perfect position where you can see the knight is stronger than the bishop. Okay, so he plays queen to the d3, and now Fischer decides like, okay, he can just exchange the queens. He plays queen to the f5, and now here he plays rook to the d8, supporting the, and now this is much more easy position. I'll just go through the moves. He plays a nice move, rook to the right, rook to the left. Now the rook's job on h3 is done, so he goes to the a3 square, attacking the a6 pawn. This is the speciality of good players. They understand once their position is good on one side of the board, they try to improve the position on the other side of the board. And if some piece is not doing great job on one side of the board, they will try to shift it to the other side of the board. So always remember, you can shift your pieces. Don't just think that, okay, you have kept your piece on the queen side, so it should be on the queen side. No, transfer that piece to a better square, transfer that piece to a better location. Okay, so rook a3 is actually a good move because it is targeting a weakness on a6. So black plays queen to the a7, trying to support the pawn. He plays rook to the c3, again trying to get to the c7 square, and you can see that this queen on f5 is actually controlling the c8 square, so that is a good way. So black plays g6. So here he just moves to the g4 square, queen d7. Again he is trying to exchange the queens, but now Fischer doesn't want to exchange the queens. He plays queen to the f3, queen e6 is played, and finally rook comes on the 7th rank. And we know this thing that the rook on the 7th rank is always a very strong piece. I am going a little bit faster now because I have told you what was very important in this game, because I want to show you one more game also, if it's possible for you guys to wait. Okay, so he plays knight to the f4, queen e5, and now he brings the rook in the game. Suddenly the queen on e5 is feeling very uncomfortable because it is not having any good squares. So he goes to the dynamic chess is saying, hi Atul, hi. So queen h8 was played, and now to make sure that there will not be any back rank checkmates or anything, Karthik here, okay, welcome. a3 was played so that there will be some room for your king to escape if some back rank checkmates are there. So black plays h6, trying to make his own room and trying to bring the queen in the game somehow. Fischer plays g into h6. After queen into h6, he plays h5. Again you can see that Fischer always uses the h file to open up his opponent's king side. The bishop g5 comes, the knight is there on this square. Now for you guys, can you tell me a good move from white side? We have come to a position which is important now. Come on, can you see the position or not? Are you guys there, or everybody is gone? Your knight on f4 is being attacked by queen and bishop. Are you going to save the knight, or are you going to play something else? We are thinking. Okay, think, take your time. I'm waiting for your answer. Okay, Shivendra is saying h into g6, but you should think, what would you play if your opponent captures the knight on f4? h into g6, then bishop into f4. What is your answer after that? Write down the variation, not just the one move. At least 2 moves you should write down, guys. You're being too lazy today. If you are a little bit dull, then at least drink water, freshen up. Okay, after bishop into h4, I got two solutions. One is g into f7 and another is rook to the h5. Okay, possible. Knight h3, f2 and g4. Okay, but that is a very slow plan. Fischer doesn't want to play in a slow way. He wants to attack his king. He wants to disturb black's king side. Okay, that's why he played, I will tell you now, that's why he played h into g6, which was suggested by player. And if bishop into f4 is played in this position, then you can see that this rook can come join. This rook is also there on the 7th rank, and the queen is also there, going to come here, right? So he will play a very nice move, that is g into f7. If rook into f7 is played in this position, then after rook into f7, king into f7, white will play a simple move, that is rook f5. No, sorry, not rook f5. He will just play rook to the h5, and now the queen is being attacked. It cannot really support the bishop on f4. He needs to move maybe to the queen g6, or if he plays queen to the f6 in this position, obviously we have rook to the f5 and the queen will be lost. So most probably he will play queen to the g6 and we can just capture the queen into f4, and black king is very badly placed in this position, and white should win slowly and gradually. Okay, because let's suppose if he plays king e7, just for the sake of clarity we will see, then white will just play rook to the g5, again attacking the queen. If he plays queen f6, again we can play this. If queen g6, then this king is weak, so we will bring the queen in the game with queen f2, and queen a7 will come, and this will be losing for him. So this is the reason that his opponent did not go for bishop into f4 after h into g6. He played f into g6, and now Fischer played a very nice move. He understood that still he doesn't need to protect the knight, because he cannot really protect the knight because rook is also attacking, it is pinned, and this is, but he saw something which was little bit deep. He saw queen to the b3 is a good move, which his opponent actually missed. He thought that after f into g6 he is going to win the knight on f4, but after queen to the b3 it is just difficult position for black, because there is going to be discovered check on this diagonal. His opponent captured the knight on f4 finally, and which move will you play? Final two moves of this game, can you find it out? There is a concept called as hanging pieces in this, on this board. Rook into f5. There is no f5. Maybe you are saying rook into g5. Rook g5, queen g5, rook c5, discovered check. Okay, first of all, this queen is already there on this, so if you move this rook, there is a discovered check directly. Okay, Ranveer was typing something. RG. Okay, everybody wants to capture the bishop on g5. That is correct. You can capture the bishop on g5, but there was a better alternative. Okay, I will tell you the better alternative. One person has already suggested it. Mukesh is saying rook e5. Absolutely right. Rook e6 check is a good alternative, because the rook on e8 is unprotected in this position, and if he plays king to the f8, There is a checkmate after rook into e8 check. He must capture, and we will play. Which move will you play? Queen e6 check. And if he plays king to the f8, can you find out a checkmate in two moves? There is a check after rook e5, Mayur. Two moves checkmate from white side. Finish off the game. Come on. Queen c8. Yes, absolutely right. Queen c8 is a good move because this rook is controlling this, and then queen c8 is there, and this is a check and mate. Okay, I think we have seen enough games till now of Fischer's different, like we saw attacking game, we saw this little bit positional plus attacking, both the things were there. And first game was also interesting when his opponent did not play good. So what would you like to do? Tell me. Would you like to solve some tactics on chess.com now to freshen up? And then we will again see his masterpiece with which he finished his opponent in just 21 moves. What is your suggestion? We will do like that. Okay. Okay, I'll think about it. Okay. So let's solve some tactics for 5-10 minutes, and then again we will see Fischer's game. Okay. Let me go to chess.com. Can you see chess.com? We'll solve some puzzles. Up for it. Okay. My rating is 1653 today. Let's see, can we cross 1700 at least today? Okay. Come on, guys. I hope till the end of our lectures I will at least cross 2000 rating. Rook e6 checkmate. My dear friend, it's not a mate. He will run with king to the g5. You need to calculate properly. Tell me the complete move, complete variation. Rook e6, king g5, rook to the g7, king h4, rook h6. Absolutely right. Mayur, you are on fire today. You are telling me one mate after another. That's nice. So should I go for rook e6? Absolutely, I should go rook e6. Rook into g7, and now it's a check and mate. Okay. Okay, next one. What would you do? It is black to play. I think black is going to win this game by going into the pawn end game. Let's see if you people can find it out. You should go into the pawn end game. You need to exchange everything. Okay. It is black to play. Ranveer, it is black to play, not white to play. White is on the move. Rushikesh Kulkarni, knight c4 you are saying. Okay. What if I just capture rook into c4? Then? After that, what would you do? Ranveer is saying queen to the c8. Okay. Queen to the c8 is not possible in this position. This queen cannot go to the c8. Okay, where do you want to go? I don't understand. Okay, Mayur is saying queen into queen. If king into queen, then knight d3 fork, and if rook into queen, then knight c4 fork. Okay. Mukesh is saying queen into e5, king into e5, knight e6 fork, bishop to the d8. Okay, this in this position it is not coming also. Queen d8. Okay, I will play the move now from white side, which black side, which looks very natural. It is this, and now if he captures with the rook, we are going to play knight here, and after this it should be winning for black, because we are going to play king here, then king will come here and we'll capture the pawn, and slowly and gradually we will push the pawn and it will be a win for us. So let's go to the next position. Okay, Karthik, you are right. Okay, let's see whether you can find it out. There can be a check and mate. White to play in this position. Queen c8 is suggested by Shivendra. Can you write down the complete variation, Shivendra? Yes, it should be winning, but you need to write down the complete variation. After king e7, what would you do? Sina, rook e1 is not good. Okay, after queen c8, rook e1 makes more sense. So I'll play the first move, which is very natural. Queen to the c8, king e7, and now which move will you play? Yes, rook e1 should be played in this position so that this will be there, and there is no option for him. Even if he plays king to the rook to the e4, knight to the e4, then we can play rook into e4 check. If king f6, then you need to be a little bit careful. We need to play queen into. Okay, this position is winning. We'll go to the next one now. Today your guys are telling me fast. Okay, this is white to play. You can capture the knight on e5, right? So should you capture the knight on e5? I think yes. This looks easy for me. Yes, okay. Queen into e5 is your answer. Fine. Okay, I will capture the knight and let's see whether it is a good move or not. Here what to do? Where should you place your queen? The queen is being attacked. Let's solve 2 or 3 more. Okay, it is white to play. You are under check. What to do? Queen into j6 is suggested by Sina. Well, that is correct. But what about f into g6? After that, what would you do? King h1 is said by Shivendra. But if you play king to the h1, then you will lose the bishop on g7. Well, Sina is correct. Rook into f8 and the pawn endgame will be very good. Queen g6, f g6, rook f8, queen f8, bishop f8. Ending is winning for white. Absolutely right. This endgame is completely winning for white because we have this passed pawn on this file. Okay. E file we have passed pawn. Okay, next one. What would you do? Pawn endgame looks winning for white. Absolutely right, Mayur. King f8, then what? Karthik, what about king f8? Be careful with your sacrifices. It's not always necessary to sacrifice the pieces. Maybe you can win the game without sacrifice also. King f8, rook f1 check, winning the queen. Yes, that is the answer I am looking for. Absolutely. Shivendra, you are right. Mayur, you are also right. We should play rook into f7. Okay, I will capture here and then queen into e6. And now this king is not having any squares going around. So we will play rook to the f1. And now we are going to win the queen. And it is absolutely winning position for us. Okay, we will solve one more tactic and try to cross the 1700. And then we will look at the game. Okay, queen f7 is suggested by someone. Okay, tell me the complete variation. Followed by knight e6. Okay, what about if he plays king to the d6? Then what? I think queen f7 is not that good. There is a better alternative than queen f7. It is a straightforward checkmate in 3 moves. Come on. Can you find it out? Okay, queen e6, king d8 is said by, and queen d6. Okay, queen d8, king d6, knight to the f7, king c7, queen d6. Yes, absolutely right. Yes, you guys are correct. Queen e6 is the best move in this position, and after that you should give a check, and after queen to the d6 it's a check and mate. And finally we have crossed 1700 rating. Congrats to you guys. We are 1700 player now. Okay, so let's look at the final game which I wanted to show you, and if you are still interested, then we can look at the final, because we don't have that much time. We are already 1.5 hours, so this game, final game, will take some time. Okay, I will try to show Botvinnik games. I will think about it, Botvinnik or what. But just to let you know, for the final days I have decided to show Anand's games. Okay, okay, can you see the position properly now? The board is visible, I think. Better now. There are very few people now. I think everybody got bored with the tactics. So this game which we are going to see was played between Robert Ban as white and Fischer was black. And the thing about this game is what it was played in USA Championship, and this was Fischer's second US Chess Championship victory, and he won this Chess Championship with complete score. He scored 11 out of 11 in this championship, and the second player, who was Larry Vance, in this game, in this tournament, was 3.5 points behind him. Okay. Yes. Yeah, wait. No, this is not the. This is not a queen sacrifice wala game. This is different game. And it was played in 1963 championship. Can you see the name now properly? I think yes. That game of queen sacrifice was played by the player Robert Ben's brother. He was elder brother. His name was Donald Brand. Okay, not Robert. They were brothers. So, okay, as I told you, this game is played in that championship, and everybody was eyeing towards Fischer because he sometimes got defeated because of this player only in past. So he played d4. Fischer started with knight to the f6, and white played c4. Then Fischer played g6. Fischer's favorite opening was King's Indian defense, and he sometimes used to play Grunfeld defense also. So he played g3 in this position, and then he played c6. Now he is not going for the King's Indian defense because he had defeated Robert's brother in King's Indian. He is going to play Grunfeld type of structure today. So white plays bishop to the g2. Black plays d5 in this position, controlling the center. White wants to play this game as safe as possible. Okay, so he plays the moves same as his opponent, like Fischer. He plays c into d5, c into d5, knight to the c3, bishop to the g7, and now white plays e3. And after e3, black just castles. Fischer castled in this position, and there are two possibilities. Either he can play knight to the f3 or he can play knight g2. So he plays knight ge2 in this position, and Fischer develops his knight to the c6 square. White plays castle. Now if you look at the position, you can see that the position is almost symmetrical. Black castled, white also castled. This bishop is on g2, the other bishop is on g7, this knight is on f6. Okay, this knight is on e2, but this knight is same, this bishop is same, this rook is also same, queens also same. So everything looks very symmetrical, and now from this symmetrical position it's very difficult for black to create something, but Fischer creates something which is very unusual in this position. Okay, we can see that the bishop on c8 should not be placed on this diagonal, because I'll tell you why. Because if you play bishop to the f5, which looks very natural, then white can play f3, then g4 is possible, e4 is possible, and black's bishop will be feeling very uncomfortable in position. So black plays b6 in this position, trying to get this bishop to be developed on this diagonal. So white also thinks that okay, I will also adopt the same thing, and he plays b3. And we know that sometimes in our games also our opponent plays same like us. Okay, so Fischer played bishop to the a6, his opponent also played bishop to the a3. Now what to do in this position? But Fischer was very clever. He understood that what his opponent wants to do, but his opponent cannot do one thing, and Fischer spotted that thing. He plays rook to the e8 with the idea of playing e5. He wants to break in the center, he wants to change the character of the position. So white plays queen to the d2. Well, to be honest, in this position white should have played something like rook to the c1, trying to bring the rook on this file. That was something good for white, but he played queen to the d2, just waiting. Okay, and Fischer decides to play e5, but e5 move has some drawback in this, because you are weakening the pawn on d5, because you can see that the knight is already attacking the pawn on d5. You are supporting it with queen and knight, but we will be attacking with the bishop also, and after d into e5, the pawn on d5 will be attacked by 3 pieces. All these 3 pieces will be attacking, but if white captures on d5, he will lose something. Can you spot? Can white capture the pawn on d5 or not? My first question for you in this position. f3 fork. Okay, e2 knight hangs at the end. Okay, that is also possible. Well, this both the things can happen quite easily in this position. That if knight into d5 is played in this position, then you can see that the knight was supporting on e2 and queen is supporting on e2. So black can play knight into d5, and if suppose queen into d5 is played in this position, black can simply play bishop into e2 and the knight on e2 will be lost. Okay, and if he plays bishop into d5 in this position, then you can see that this queen is indirectly attacking the d2 queen, and then knight f3 check will come and it will be a knight fork. So that is not a good option for white. So that's why he did not go for the pawn on d5. He played simple move, he played rook f d1, just trying to attack the pawn on d5, and white plays a very nice move. As we can see that this bishop is controlling this diagonal, the knight on e5 is pretty well placed in the center. He goes to the another good square, that is the knight to the d3. The knight on d3 is quite a great piece here, because we have seen that once our knight comes into our opponent's camp, we attack too many pawns, too many squares. This knight is pretty strong in this position. And now white plays queen to the c2, trying to attack the d3 knight. He wants to capture the knight on d3. Can you tell me what Fischer had played in this position? He comes up with a very great move. Maybe some of you might be knowing this game. You can tell me what would you play. Knight into f2 is said by, okay, Karthik, you are right. Well, in this position you can see that Fischer was not going to just retreat the knight. He doesn't want to go back just like that. He wants to create more and more play. Shivendra, you are right. He wants to attack, and in this position the pawn on f2 is weak. The pawn on e3 is also a little bit weak, because this rook is attacking this pawn on e3, and this knight is ready to jump in this two squares. So that's why, to take advantage of white's position, which is leading in development and activity of the pieces, he finally plays knight into f2. If king to the f2, the knight jumps on the g4 square. He is attacking the e3 pawn as well as the king on f2, and here the king goes to the g1 square, and now the family fork happens on the board. Black plays knight into e3, attacking bishop, rook as well as the queen, and it's very difficult position for white now. Okay, in the game he played queen to the d2, attacking the, now in this position black needs to take a very important decision. Should he capture the bishop on g2 or should he capture the rook on d1? It is a very important decision black needs to take. Which piece will you capture? Will you capture the rook or the bishop? Yes, weakening the king is very important, because this bishop is the only piece which is defending the king on g1, because this light squares will be weak if you capture the bishop on j2. That's why Fischer goes for the knight into g2, and after king into g2 we know this thing that the bishops, this diagonal is opened up now, and that's why we should play some important move. Because if you play just to the bishop to the b7 trying to put this bishop on this diagonal, it will not help you, because white can play knight d4 and it will stop the pawn on d5. So Fischer understood this thing. He just thinks that, okay, I need to open up the position, so he plays d4, opening up this bishop's diagonal, and now suddenly white's king is in danger. Okay, white plays knight into d4 and the bishop comes on b7 with a check. The king is in trouble. He plays king to the f1, and now the game's final move comes into the center. He plays, which move will you play? This is not so obvious position that it is winning or what, you cannot really understand exactly in this position. Yes, queen to the d7 actually is good move. The queen is going to come on the h3 square, and this king on f1 is going to be checkmated. Okay, just for the sake of clarity we will see what really happens in this position. If white plays queen to the f2 trying to bring the queen near the king, then black can play queen to the h3 check. If king g1 is there, then black has a very nice move, because this knight on d4 is protected by the queen, and this rook, but you can see that the queen cannot really go anywhere because he needs to protect against this queen to the g2 check and mate. Okay, so to deflect the queen on f2, black can play a very nice move, that is rook to the e1 check, and if you play queen to the e1, then queen to the g2 is a checkmate, and if you play rook to the e1, then black has a nice tactical shot, that is bishop into d4, attacking the queen on, and the queen will be pinned. So if white plays rook to the e3, then bishop into e3, and after queen into e3, it is a checkmate on g2 square. So because of these things, black player Miss Fischer just won the game on 21st move. His opponent actually resigned without playing the move, but this is the variation which was hidden, which his opponent saw. And but just to let you know about the final position, many people might be knowing this thing or not. In this current position, actually there were commentators, two grandmasters were commentating about the game, and they were thinking that this position is actually won for white, it is winning for white. That was a very funny situation about this game, but actually white player resigned in that position and everybody was shocked, and after the post game analysis, everybody understood that why black actually won this position, why white resigned in this position. It was so funny that two grandmasters were not understanding. They were telling the audience that white is winning in this position, and it was a big news at that time because Fischer was winning one game after another. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this game. It was a tactical game, many of you must be knowing, and I think we should stop here. I hope you learned something today looking at Fischer's game. Okay, these games were famous, some of them were not famous, but they were interesting. I hope you enjoyed. So yes, thank you very much everyone for joining me. We'll meet again tomorrow with something interesting, maybe with some world champions games only, but a different one. Okay, see you then. Thanks again for joining me. Bye, take care. Arigato. Thank you Karthik for joining.